Tier lists, tier lists, and tier lists. Everyone seems to love these for some reason, but today we're going to get a bit more specific. We're going to take a look at each map and ranking which agents are the best for each. So without wasting time, let's get started. But before we talk about the map metas, if you want to stay up to date on any meta that Riot throws at us, you should check us out at SkillCapped. We have agent-specific courses created by Radiant One Tricks, we got map guides, even for Lotus, and a ton more value for any level player. Or we can set up a VOD review for any of you higher skilled players. So stop wasting your RR and come over to our website at SkillCapped. It's our job to help you improve. Let's begin with everyone's favorite map in Ascent. It's simple, basic, doesn't have gimmicks, and honestly, feels like home to most players. Starting in the S tier, we have Jett. She's overall a pretty flexible agent that gives you a lot of options on both halves. Jett can get aggressive on offense, hold space on defense, and in the right hands, can downright carry games. Next in the S tier, we have Omen. He's just as flexible as Jett. And yes, his one-ways just got nerfed, but they still work. So if you can figure out how to do them, Omen is definitely still S tier on this map. Lastly in the S tier, we have Killjoy. On this map, her limited range doesn't bother her too much, and she does a great job at clogging up these narrow choke points across the map. Her ultimate is also nuts, and is what I believe launches her into this S tier. Now in the A tier, we have Sova, Fade, and Kayo. Each initiator provides insane amounts of information with their signatures, or really good chip damage with their other abilities. On this map, initiators are a must, and without good ones, you'll have a hard time winning. Next on this tier, we have Raze. She's a great number 2 option to Jett, as they can both dive onto sites together, create space, but what Raze has is that she can default with her boombot. Ascent can be played in many ways, and with Raze, you can make your own plays on your own, but still have the ability to explode when your team needs you to. Now lastly in this tier, we have the other Sentinels in Chamber, Cypher, and Sage. Each of them offer their own unique playstyles that will affect each composition. With Chamber, you don't really need a Jett, and he still holds his own on this map despite his recent nerfs. I mean, just people suck at playing around operators. Sage makes her defense a lot easier and still has good uses on offense. She can boost over smokes and into windows with her wall, she can slow down enemy retakes or pushes, and her ultimate allows your team to aggressively default. And Cypher setups have so much mix-up potential that can get you so much information, anchor power, or whatever you need. I don't see an issue with locking any of these three, as they each are very strong on this map if played correctly. Now over in the B tier, we're going to have Astra, Breach, and Skye starting us off. These agents aren't necessarily bad by any means, and as a matter of fact, pro teams use these agents occasionally. But the issue with them is that they require your teammates to follow up off them more than other agents would. Breach can't follow up off his own stun that well and has mediocre flashes. Skye's flashes don't last long unless sent far distances, and Astra can't have global presence if her teammates aren't asking for her utility. But if you do manage to get your teammates to work together, or even your duo to play off you, these agents should have a ton of potential. Next up in the B tier are Brimstone and Neon. These agents just feel mediocre on this map. Brim has a lot of stopping power on defense, but he has to play around in mid if he wants to smoke off every part of the map. Neon is alright, she just doesn't compare to her counterparts in Jett or Raze. When entering, her fast lane can allow the enemy team to actually funnel in, but her relay bolts are nice at fighting for map control. Her ultimate also isn't that great when compared to everybody else's, but she isn't that bad. And now lastly, we have Reyna, Harbor, Phoenix, Yoru, and Viper in the C tier. They're here because the map just doesn't really suit their playstyle. Reyna just kinda sucks, Harbor has no anchoring power, Phoenix is just a great value KO, Yoru doesn't have that many great spots to entry for his team and teleport, and Viper feels awkward unless she has another controller. Alright, next let's move on to Haven. This map is wide with long rotation times. It's offense sided, favoring good executes for attackers and retake potential for defenders. Starting in the S tier, we have Jett once again. She fits exactly what we're looking for in strong executes, retakes, and can abuse those long sightlines with an operator. Next we have Killjoy. Her kit is great at denying map control on both attack and defense, and her ultimate is arguably the best on this map for retakes or executing sight, and it's only 7 ultimate points. Now in the A tier, we have Sova, Fade, Skye, Breach, and Kayo. Yeah, every initiator is great on this map. Sova's recon is hard to hit and executes, Fade has multiple prowlers, Skye's Trailblazer is the strongest drone in the game, Breach's fault line is great for executes, retakes, and fighting for a lobby, and Kayo's knife is perfect for hitting sites quick. In the A tier, we also have Omen and Astra. Since the map is so big, their ability to smoke from anywhere is huge on defense. Plus, they both have strong options for taking fights as well. And then next in Haven's A tier are Raze and Neon. Their strong execute potential fits this map like a glove, and Neon can rotate faster than most agents. And lastly, Cypher also belongs in this tier as well. Again, Haven is a big map, and Cypher being able to play away from his utility and not have it deactivate is huge. Starting off in the B tier, we have Brimstone, Sage, Chamber, and Yoru. Brimstone suffers the same problem he has on other maps where he has to play mid if he wants to smoke either site. But his stim beacon is really nice for hits. Sage is great at hitting B, and she can stall enemy executes and retakes really well. Chamber and Yoru are great at rotating through the map, and are great operator options. But keep in mind, these agents aren't bad per se. But if you're playing these agents, you have to give up some of the really strong options I have higher up on the list. So why would you run something less optimal? And then once again in our C tier, we have Harbor, Phoenix, Reyna, and Viper. And like I mentioned on Ascent, these agents just don't offer nearly as much value as the other agents do and just don't fit the map that well. So Riot just reintroduced Split, and a lot of you love it. This map plays a lot differently from the others as well. So Raze is going to top off our S tier. This map is really close quarters, meaning Raze can get a lot of value out of her paint shells, and her explosive power is great too. Next on this list is Sage. Everyone is addicted to walling off mid, which isn't always her strongest option, but if her mid wall doesn't get broken, it's almost an automatic win on defense with the fast rotation times that get created. Now in our A tier is where you're going to find Astra, Killjoy, and Cypher. Astra is great at clogging up the millions of narrow choke points, and the same goes for Killjoy. And if Cypher is set up properly, he can do a great job lurking towards A on attack and gather you a ton of information on defense. In this tier, we also have Kayo, Skye, and Fade. Each of these agents are great at taking mid control, which is imperative on this map. And next in our B tier, you've got Omen, Brimstone, and Viper. These controllers are great at clogging up all the choke points on this map, but they each all have their flaws. Omen's smokes aren't as strong as they were before since they got rid of his one-ways, Brimstone's range is once again pretty limited, and Viper needs a secondary controller. Chamber, Jett, and Neon also fit in this tier. Chamber is a great opping agent, but with the amount of utility that gets used on this map, it's going to be hard to get a good shot off. And Jett and Neon are okay, but they're outclassed by Raze pretty hard. Plus, Neon's relay bolts can screw over your team hard if used wrong. I'm also going to put Breach in this tier. Don't get me wrong, he's phenomenal on defense and can actually follow up off his own utility. It's offense where he struggles because he relies heavily on his teammates to get value out of his kit, which can be pretty hard to do in ranked. And then once again in the C tier, we have our regulars with Harbor, Reyna, Phoenix, Sova, and Yoru. Now these guys are going to get love soon, I promise, but they just don't fit Split that well, and you'll struggle sometimes to get good value out of them. And now since we're talking about new maps, let's jump over to Lotus. Starting off in the S tier, we have Breach. He's just too good. His fault line is the best at contesting early map control and is great at pushing defenders back. I'm also putting Neon up here. Her fast line is great at scaling up A main in a tree and entering on the C side and B side. Plus, her relay bolts are really impressive as well. And I'll throw Killjoy in here too, why not? She's great at contesting these choke points, and the range for bots isn't that bad on this map either, and her ultimate is insane. Now in our A tier, we have a pretty unfamiliar face in Harbor. Harbor smokes are actually really flexible on this map. You can fight A on defense, you can smoke off this cross on offense, you can cover multiple sight lines, and his ultimate too is really slept on. I'm telling you, this is his best map. I'm also putting Raze, Kayo, Sova, Fade, and Sage in this tier. Each of them have their own way of contesting the map with their own strengths and weaknesses, but they're all good choices. And if you're not comfortable with Harbor, Astra works well on this map too. Now the B tier is topped off with Chamber and Jett. They're both good on this map, but don't contribute as much as the other agents do, and Chamber is really good towards B and C. In this tier, I'm also going to slot Omen, Brimstone, Viper, and Skye, each of which have their own way of fighting for map control and scaling up parts of the map, but they're just outclassed by other agents on this list. And lastly, in Lotus' C tier, I'm putting Yoru, Phoenix, and Reyna in here. Their kits are just weak and don't fit the map like the other agents do. But something to keep in mind is that there are 3 ultimate orbs on this map, all of which are attacker sided, so maybe Phoenix isn't too bad. Now let's move on to Fracture, and this map is pretty hit or miss for most people. You either hate it or you love it. In our S tier, we have Raze and Neon. Both duelists offer really explosive firepower for strong executes and solid retakes. This also is Brimstone's best map, which is why he's up here as well. He also has great execute potential by being able to smoke off 3 choke points at once. Breach is up here as well with his fault line, as it fills most of the hallways on this map. Now in our A tier, we have Jett and Phoenix. Phoenix is finally up in a good spot because this map has 4 ultimate orbs for him to farm. And I'll be honest, Jett is just always a solid pick. In this tier, we also have Kayo and Fade. They're pretty strong initiators that are great at contesting almost any area of the map. And lastly in this A tier, we have Cypher and Killjoy. Cypher can get info across the entire map, but Killjoy's ultimate is usually a round winner. Now moving to the B tier, we have Sage and Chamber. Chamber can still hold his own on one half of the map, but his options for setups are pretty limited now. Sage is nice too, as she can heavily slow down pushes and wall off important parts of the map on executes. Astra, Omen, Viper, and Harbor are all grouped in this tier as well, as they're pretty decent, but they just all have their, normal big weaknesses. Astra's smokes don't last long, Omen's one-ways are gone, Viper needs another controller, and Harbor just has no stopping power. And lastly in this tier, we have Skye. She isn't as good as the other initiators, but isn't a bad option either. And in the C tier, we have Reyna, Sova, and Yoru. They just don't fit this map that well. Next, we're diving into Pearl. In the S tier, we have Killjoy. Her kit is great at contesting every part of the map, and her ultimate is round winning, like on Fracture. Jett is also S tier material, as she makes great space on A side and can close the gap from halls and B main. She can also defend B long pretty well with an op. Astra also belongs in here as she's extremely flexible and can be used across the map in a wide variety of ways. Now in the A tier, we have Sova, Fade, and Kayo. Each initiator can be used in their own way and can scale up B-Long pretty well. Neon also makes her way into this tier as she can speed up executes and close the gap on B-Long. Cypher and Sage also belong in this tier as Cypher's lurks and global presence are huge, while Sage slows the game down and makes going B super easy. I'm also putting Viper in here because she's great at scaling, can block off many sightlines with one wall, and can stall better than anyone on defense. And in the B tier, we have Breach, Skye, Omen, and Brimstone. These agents are okay, but simply aren't as optimal as their counterparts. I also think Yoru belongs in the B tier as he's one of the few agents who can actually defend a B-Long with an op now, but his TP is still underwhelming on offense. Now in the C tier, we got our Phoenix, Harbor, Reyna, and Chamber. Just like in other maps, they just don't fit the map that well. And now keep in mind, this C tier doesn't mean that they're unplayable. It's just that, I don't know, it takes a lot to make them work. Now it's time for our last map, Icebox. This map requires a lot of scaling, and some agents are super meta on this map. In this S tier, we have Jett, Sage, Viper, and Sova. These agents fit this map like a glove. Jett is the best at pushing up into off angles and trying to get early kills. Sova is the best at clearing these angles, and Viper's wall and orb are just enough to block all the important sightlines. And she's good at stalling. And then you need Sage to go B unless you want to get spammed. Now in the A tier, we have Reyna. There are a lot of long angles on this map, and her leers are perfect at clearing all these and allow you to swing them pretty safely. And then Kayo is here too because you can scale up with his knife pretty well. Killjoy is nice too as her bots can cover all of mid, and if the enemies don't break them, you never have to worry about mid. Raze is also in the A tier because her paint shells can delay the plant on defense, and her satchels allow her to make a ton of space for her team on attack. And then lastly in the A tier is Omen. He has a ton of one-ways that are really useful, and he can take advantage of this map's elevation with his Shrouded Step. And now in the B tier, we have a ton of agents. We have Skye, Breach, Astra, Harbor, Cypher, Chamber, Neon, Yoru, Fade, Brimstone, and Phoenix. Yes, that's literally everyone. The thing is that Icebox is weird. This map is played most efficiently with the S tier and A tier agents. If you look at every pro comp that's ever come out for this map, why would you ever want to run any other agent? They just don't fit as well. I mean, sure, in ranked, anything can work, but no team comp comes close to the one containing a combination of Jett, Sova, Sage, Viper, and then maybe one A tier agent. To be honest, if you want to run another agent than these, you're just making the game harder on yourself. So I know it was brief, but hopefully I've painted a good picture of where the meta is on each map. Maps have their own playstyle, and your agent choice has a big impact as to what your teammates should play. So choose carefully. But to be honest, this game is pretty balanced right now. The gaps between agents aren't really that big, so run what you want. Anyways, if you guys enjoyed the video, be sure to drop a like and subscribe to the channel down below. It really does help us out. But before you go, just keep in mind that if you want to learn any of these agents, we can help you master them at SkillCapped. We have agent courses, rating commentaries, an Ask a Pro Discord channel if you have any questions, and so much more. Our job is to literally help you improve with Valorant. So what are you waiting for? You got nothing to lose. Head on over to skillcapped.com and get started in your way to the rank that you deserve. And yeah, that's it. Thanks for listening, guys. I'm Teets, and we here at SkillCapped want to thank you all for watching, and we'll catch you guys in the next one. Take care.